An SABC News presentation.
A very good evening and welcome to Interface. My name is Neo Sihume, standing in for Tembisa Machele, who is down with laryngitis. We wish her a speedy recovery. Now, this week saw the township of Zamel in the Free State province erupt with violent protest and a looting spree. This subsequently led to a number of protesters getting injured and killed. At the heart of this particular problem of unrest is service delivery. Tonight on Interface, we look at demarcation and service delivery. Tonight's question is violence and looting justified for your voice to be heard? Please SMS us yes or no to 33726. 33726. You're also welcome to Facebook us on Interface on SABC 3. But before we continue with the show, let us take a look at this insert compiled by our producer, Ngwathe.
This is Sasolburg, located about 300 kilometers from the Free State capital, Bloemfontein. Sasolburg is an industrial town and was originally home to employees at the local gas and oil plant. However, this normally docile and somewhat sleepy town is experiencing an upsurge of violent protests against the merger of its municipality, Metsimaholo local government and the Ngwathe local government municipality. At the heart of violent demarcation protests are accusations of lack of service delivery. This is not the first time that a small town in the Free State province experiences service delivery protests. Since 2004, this province has experienced no less than 9 service delivery protests out of 11 nationally. In 2010, it was placed 5th among the country's provinces with the most service delivery protests. It was in the Free State province during a service delivery related protest where the country witnessed the killing of unrest. According to the South African Institute of Race Relations, failures in education and labor market access are blocking socio-economic advancement for residents, making them prone to this level of protest and violence. So tonight on Interface we ask, why Sasolburg has erupted so violently?
Thank you, Ngwathe. To take us further in this discussion, we actually extend our warm welcome to our studio guests. We have the chairperson of the Municipal Demarcation Board, Mr. Landiwe Mahlangu. Also joining us is Mr. Lucky Malebu, who is leading the community of Zamel from Metsimaholo concerned residents. Welcome, gentlemen, and a very good evening. Lebu, let's try and look at why did the community react the way that they did, and take us back through a time frame.
Yeah, actually, before the 7th of this month, January, we knew nothing about this, you know. So actually, we saw this group of the community. We saw this in an article in the weekly newspapers, and where our MEC for Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, you know, alluded to the fact that this amalgamation is something that is in the process. So we took it upon ourselves to come together and to let the community know. So that's why we approached our local community radio station to speak to the people and to find out if anybody knew about this. And the response was overwhelming, which led us to the very same week that we met on Monday. Tuesday we went to our community radio station. And then on Thursday, we called a community meeting at our local community hall. So the response also was fantastic. You know, the hall was packed, and that led us to say, okay, we have to take this to a bigger venue, which is the Zamel Stadium, where we wrote a letter to the council via the speaker of Metsimaholo to call the council, and the community would be there, the whole council, irrespective of political party, the whole council of 42 councillors. We expected them to come and address us and tell us as to why they never followed the legal framework where it's required that before you put in a submission or a proposal for this amalgamation, you have to first consult with the community. They never did that.
Now, following that, you hold the meeting. What transpired?
We held a meeting on the 20th where we expected them to come, even though the speaker did respond, but he never touched on whether the council would be coming or not. But we went to the stadium because he never indicated that they won't be there. But unfortunately, they never showed up. But also then because we started from 9 o'clock, we were supposed to start from 9 until 1 o'clock. So we finished off at around 11:15 because we also had to give back to the community whatever we found out as to where the process is and how we fit into that, and what we found out, and the petition that we made people to sign that we sent also. We spoke to the CEO, Mr. Kabusile Kabu, from the Demarcation Board. So we sent our objection to the amalgamation to the Demarcation Board.
Chairperson Mahlangu, yes. This is an open, frank community saying that they were not consulted. Is this standard operational business from where you stand as the chairperson of the board, of the Demarcation Board?
Yeah. No, thanks. Good evening to the listeners. Let me start by saying is that what I think like he is saying is basically consistent with how the board operates. Let me just unpack consultation in this instance. When the process started, the Demarcation Board has received a number of proposals, and these proposals came from a variety of stakeholders. In terms of the board, there's basically three types of people that can approach the board with a proposal to alter or change a boundary. It would be when the board initiates that proposal itself, or the municipalities can actually send that proposal to us, or the MEC or the minister can actually send that proposal, to us for consideration. We have received, as of last year, on our records, about 500 or so of these, changes, ranging from the traditional leaders to all manner of people, even private. In other words, I'm saying, private individuals. And the first step, obviously, when the board received a proposal to change a boundary, the first thing that it did was to convene a series of actually meetings in the district areas, for instance, in the areas which are affected, by the proposals. And this is the consultation, if you like, that we actually undertook. And the purpose of that consultation were basically at least two. One was, first, if the proposal involves two municipalities, for us was to say to what extent, for instance, has there been a consultation, if you like, between those two municipalities involved. That's the first, purpose. The second purpose is also to look at the feasibility of that proposals. We have had instances where people make proposals that are beyond the scope of the board. For instance, they will make proposals that, for instance, do a cross boundary.
Yes.
So, we know that that can't go any further because it's beyond the mandate, of the board. In some instances, if I may, it's where, for instance, we check the proposal for, if you like, validity. We would find instances, particularly in rural areas, whereby one village there and the other village there, they want to be part of the municipalities. Or for instance, a traditional leader would like, a particular scattered communities to be part of the, of one municipality. When that happens, obviously, it may result in a very non-contiguous municipality, so therefore it cannot be taken forward. So that's a process that took place, last year in November. I can confirm that in this particular instance, when we received this proposal, which came from the ministry, and I think it was supported by the district, if I'm not mistaken, we had two meetings, one in actual Ngwathe, and the other one in Metsimaholo. Now, the purpose there was firstly to check whether the two municipalities are aware of these proposals. And secondly, the purpose and something that has not come out clear. The board was doing these consultations to empower the initiators and the communities around in terms of its proposal.
Okay.
That took place, yeah.
I need to quickly interrupt you. For now, let's take a very short ad break. When we come back, we take a look at the demarcation and how the board decided on it. Please join us after this. Welcome back. You are watching Interface here on SABC3. We are discussing the violence that erupted in Sasolburg over the service delivery protests, subsequent lootings that occurred. Joining me in studio, of course, is the chairperson of the board, Mr. Landiwe Mahlangu, and Mr. Lucky Malebo. Mr. Malebo, please explain to us, why did the community erupt?
Just a simple fact. We don't want to be amalgamated with Ngwathe. That's basically it. People don't want to merge with Ngwathe because Ngwathe, for example, has been declared as corrupt. Not the residents of Ngwathe, but the local municipality of Ngwathe has been declared as corrupt. And there's a lot of other issues. For example, if you look, I think if you look at their integrated development plan, for example, they owe ESCOM 160 million.
Yes.
You see, that's one of the things. Another thing is you look at the water quality, for example. You look at Hailborn and Edenville. Edenville, they use borehole system, which is almost running dry. And now the Ngwathe municipality has to transport around 90,000 liters of water on a daily basis. You see, so when we look at those things, you know, notwithstanding the fact that we also have our own problems in Metsimaholo.
Right.
For example, if you look at one section of Zamel, there's one section called Amelia. We had a tornado on the 1st of January.
Right.
Up to today, I think today is the 27th. There are still a lot of houses without any roof, to such an extent that people had to do some temporary, you know, shacks behind their homes. You know, their furniture has been damaged and everything else.
Okay.
And the disaster management fund is nowhere to be seen.
Allow me to interrupt there. Mr. Mahlangu, these are very serious allegations coming through from the community side. Yeah. You filed as the board, as part of the demarcation board, an annual report that basically looks very much deeply into the functionality of the municipalities. Now, let us isolate those two municipalities. What were your findings from the previous annual report?
Yeah. Look, you know, part of the reason why we review boundaries of municipalities is genuinely to actually ensure that they function better. You know, the rationale basically of actually combining, you know, the municipalities is to actually make them to be able to better, you know, serve the communities, in a much more better way. You know, it is something that it is really something that we have been looking at, to say part of the constraint why municipalities do not function better is because, you know, from the history where we come from, they have not been configured in a manner that actually makes them to be able to function better. And there are, and I'm not saying this is the case, and one of the first logical thing to look is to say, you know, for the municipalities to actually function better, they need to have a much more better infrastructure, and much you know, better skills.
Right.
But with the scarcity of skills, it intuitively sometimes make logic to see whether you cannot combine them. So yes, I'm saying that could be that is one of the consideration. But like I said, as the board, while for instance these issues of infrastructure and capacity becomes a key consideration, the views of the community becomes much more you know, important. And this is at that stage where we were as a board. We were the stage whereby we were saying, we have looked at this, it seems plausible, but let's understand what the community's views are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Lucky, please explain to us. I can understand protest. Why the looting? What happened there? Is there an element of criminality that has permeated a worthy cause? Because I think the community is a respectable community.
Yes. Of course, no one advocates, for vandalizing or damage to property, and this is something that we also spelled out in our meeting at the stadium. We spelled it out quite clearly to the people that we don't support that. But of course, you will always have that in any volatile situation where people will go on the rampage, and then criminal elements will then seep in, and then you end up seeing what you see.
Okay.
But then also you can also look at the frustration of people, because people are frustrated.
Yes.
And we are frustrated, if I may put it that way. Our government doesn't listen to us. The municipality, up to today, they've never come back to the people. So things like those, they lead to frustration that we put these guys in leadership positions to answer to us, to be accountable to us. Now, if they don't account to us, they account to their different political parties. What then? Like now, as we sit here, what is the community supposed to do? Because they never come back to us.
Okay.
Yes.
Perhaps maybe I'm going to ask you that you step off for a moment so that we could allow a representative of the Interministerial Committee to join us after this very quick break. Okay. Before we take another short ad break, let me remind you that you can take part in tonight's topic by SMSing your views here on Interface on 33726. And you can also Facebook us on Facebook at Interface on SABC 3. We're taking a very quick interlude and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back. You are watching Interface here on SABC 3. We are discussing the violence that erupted in Sasolburg over the service delivery and subsequent lootings that occurred. Joining me in the studio is the chairperson of the Ministerial Demarcation Review Process Task Team, established as far as July last year, Ms. Mpumi Mpofu. Welcome back. And we're still with Mr. Lucky Malebo. Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
So far, what has transpired? Because as of last week, the Minister of Constitutional Development and Traditional Affairs decided to then halt the process. I presume the committee then comes in at this point to assist. Can you clarify the position?
No, absolutely. I think you're absolutely correct. Let me just clarify. This is a task team that was appointed in July of last year.
Yes.
With a broad mandate to review the entire demarcation process.
Right.
And deal with the regulatory environment, the legislation, the institutional assessment of the Municipal Demarcation Board itself, to also look at the processes relating to public participation in the process, and a whole lot of issues of how the system actually works.
You said the key word. Participation.
Public participation. No,
the community of Zamdela feels aggrieved that they have not been allowed to participate effectively, timeously, to be able to air their views.
Absolutely. This task team of ours was appointed in order to investigate that and be able to make recommendations to the minister on how to improve and enhance all of those factors that we have related to. When Zamdela happened, the minister quite clearly then extended our mandate to look specifically at the issue of Zamdela,
right,
and also look at other areas that may be potential, what we call hotspots,
right,
that need for us to put in place preventative measures in order to avoid a repeat of what happened in Zamdela.
I acknowledge that the minister reacted quite quickly. In some of these situations in the past, we've had a very long process of interaction before processes could be stopped on the ground. The challenge I am concerned with at this point in time is how far or how much longer will the community have to wait till there is a resolution to this particular situation?
Let me say what actually helps the process is that we're already in place as a task team.
Okay.
May I add also that Mr. Mahlangu, the chairperson of the Demarcation Board, is actually a member of this task team.
Yes.
And we were already in place. We were doing our work until Zamdela happened. So we've just been asked to look at this specific case.
Right.
And I can insist that that would actually assist everybody involved, because we're already starting to interrogate. We have a meeting this week, and we're rolling and investigating the specifics of Zamel and the circumstances that led to this, the conditions. But more importantly, our mandate is to facilitate and to monitor the process that is being governed and implemented by the Demarcation Board. I picked up in the interview earlier that they were relating to challenges about the management of how government interfaces with this. That is precisely our responsibility. We are to facilitate better engagement between community and government, different levels of government, within the context of the intergovernmental framework, so that in fact we can assist to alleviate the challenges that the community perceives in this particular instance, and ensure that government in its entirety, under the leadership of the minister, is playing a very important role in engaging the community in the manner that it was meant to happen. And that's really what our task is.
What about deadlines? Let's talk about deadlines, because you know the community is quite impatient at this stage, I must presume.
Yeah, no, you know, I think most of the time we have a lot to say. We speak too much. You see, like now, the task team, it has been there since last year. But what has the task team done up to so far? You know, because now if you look, they say maybe they will have recommendations, but the process is already in place. So now we feel aggrieved because we were never consulted. Now what is the task team going to do about that?
Well, she's here, ask her.
The other thing is the minister said he stops the process. Now I even asked him specifically, what do you mean, Mr. Minister, when you say you stop the process? Are you cancelling the process? Are you withdrawing the process? And
well, Mr. Ngwathe is here from the task team, madam.
So she can tell us, maybe you can tell us, what did the minister mean when she said he stops the process?
The minister's communication in relation to this matter firstly acknowledges that the application or the submission was still in progress. There had not been a decision of the Demarcation Board. That's the first acknowledgement that's important. True. The second is when the minister says he's suspending the process, effectively what he means is there has been a view from the community that public participation has not happened. Effectively, our intervention will ensure that public participation, so that when the decision is made, it is made on the basis that everybody is satisfied with how the process has been embarked upon. So effectively, in fact, if you look at the communication that came out subsequently, the minister clarified that what he was referring to was a suspension of the process, so that we come in, facilitate with all the players, monitor and ensure that everything is done in accordance to what is meant to be. The conclusion, i.e. the decision, is really a decision of the Demarcation Board. And they will reach that at the time at which they would have reached it anyway. But there would have been a government intervention in the interim to ensure that all parties are satisfied, and with the process has been started from the beginning if that's what is required, and every party is happy with respect to the process. Because we all acknowledge that what has actually gone wrong is the engagement of the various stakeholders, particularly the public, which is most affected in relation to this decision. However, we all also accept that the decision had not been made. In fact, what was referred to as an article which referred to the matter of the submission was merely an issue that was discussing the submission. The processes of the board include still to come. In the process, there is still to be submissions to be considered. There is still an opportunity for objections, formally, legally, by the very same community. The process only culminates in June of this year. So this month is the board is looking at the submission. Next month they are asking for studies and investigations as to whether this submission is valid. In May they are considering it. In May they are looking at objections.
Let's give the community leader a point to speak. He's nodding his head furiously.
Yeah, you see, when they say they will be coming in, because what I'm trying to find out is when the minister said he stops the process. Okay. Because that answer is not forthcoming. I want to know what it means, because from what she's saying is that...
Unfortunately, we've got literally about 6 or 7 seconds. We need to close the show. It's a hot topic and hot debate. Ms. Ngwathe, what happens next?
I can confirm that we will be engaging with the community and all the stakeholders in Zamdela in days.
In days.
Our meeting is tomorrow. We will conclude and we'll be rolling out into that community as we have been tasked.
We will be keeping up with you to check how development is going. Thanks to all the guests. Thanks to Mr. Mahlangu. Unfortunately, he had to leave us before he could give us his final word. At this point, we'd like to say goodbye and thank you, the viewer at home, and our guests for joining us in studio. Please join us again next week for another topical issue. From us, it's good night.